at the end of the cycle. I think they always separate. Crypto always breaks apart because of all the fear and greed that goes into it. Look, the truth is that everyone's plans and dreams are tied to this trade, but it looks like it might go all the way to the end of H2, which makes sense. Again, the ISM or business cycle kind of causes gambling, risk, too much capital and all that other stuff because people are making more money. We're still not sure. People are pushed out of the risk curve by that. That's what makes the real cycle go, especially the old season. We find a strong link between the old season and ISM. I see it as the same thing as the Bitcoin dominant chart. Either it's making a big head and shoulders top or a GMI crash pattern with the drop, the rise, the failed new high, and then the drop again. It would also make sense. However, we need the ISM to grow so that people can have more money to spend on riskier investment. A lot of people think that July will be the month we've all been waiting for. A lot of these things should happen in July or August in the United States based on the ISM, the money supply, and rate cuts. This is a very good sign. Still, nothing is for sure, and there are still a few things that could definitely stop this bull run. Some things that Raoul usually doesn't talk about are included in today's video. This is because Raoul is still very optimistic about the future of the economy. However, there is something going on at the Federal Reserve that will have a huge effect on the markets and needs to be explained before the end of the year. So today we're going to play this Ralph Powell clip. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to give you some much needed background, and then we'll go from there. Pay close attention, guys. It looks like the market isn't really set up and volume is rising. The liquidity factor for token prices is going to go up soon. Also, alts are starting to do better than Bitcoin in places where the market is getting bigger. There is more action all over space. We have stories about people who are trying to build big things, store wealth in Bitcoin, or build big things on other chains. For my job, as you know, it's pretty straight up from here. It smells like a yellow fruit is hovering around here somewhere. This is a good run for Bitcoin. I don't know where it goes by August. The good things will surprise us, I think, in how quickly things move. After that, things will calm down for a while. But even when global N2 was used as a forward sign, it only went sideways for a short time. That sounds like some chop in the middle to late summer. Now global N2 is going up again, and there is a very strong link between the two. Things won't always go smoothly, but I think we're in for a really good run from now on. In general, though, it seems like the middle tier does better than Bitcoin. On the other hand, things in the bottom tier will sometimes do better because they're new, interesting, and get a lot of attention. That being said, capital doesn't really move that far out of the risk curve very often. The amount of money and interest that is available is how I see it. Okay, that's kind of like paying attention to cash, right? That's the whole point. Along with that, there are a lot of coins now. For now, let's not talk about the bad coins. We don't have enough money to do all the things and speculate. The market has to pay attention to where the attention is. In other words, some memes will do really well because they get people's attention and, in turn, money. Using Bitcoin as a reserve currency and building the whole government on blockchain. In other words, it's interesting to see a lot of people tell me that if all this money is coming in from sovereigns, it might produce an outside return. I think that if we're going to go from 3 trillion to 100 trillion, which is my estimate based on just extrapolating the trend rate of growth, you need bigger players each time because the market cap is bigger. There's no way you'll get to 15 trillion this cycle unless you have bigger players. So I don't think it's what people think it is. I think it's just a function of the size of the market. The bigger it gets, the more people are involved. And the alts are used for infrastructure lines for new types of computing storage and all the other things that are coming. This is because blockchain technology is being used more and more, because this makes everyone like the super cycle beginning to err toward, we've already talked about this longer cycle, because the business cycle is still below 50. In general, it takes a while to get up, Then we use the GMI index of financial situations. That's 9 months ahead of this. And the fact that the dollar broke even today makes it look like this might not be able to happen until Q2 2026 because rates didn't change and the dollar stayed the same for a while. It's like the whole cycle got thrown off. Again, there are no promises in this world, but it seems like there is a chance that will be more like 2020 than 2021, or it looks a lot like 2017 in a scary way. We bought at that low price in the beginning and it worked out great. And near the end of 2022, when there isn't much world liquidity, prices don't move very much. But I don't know, Bitcoin's gone up 6 times since then. Getting to the bottom of it does work. When it really counts, though, isn't it, if there are Bitcoin or crypto chips that need to be taken off the table, this isn't always the full cycle top. As I look at the God of Fives a few times, I can see that it can be sub-cycles within, right? It's kind of like a weekly RSI. It shows when the price has been overbought or depressed. I think of this as having about a 90% connection, which is how I explain it to people. When you look at the other 10%, it's usually fear and greed that cause the market to get ahead of itself. This is what you're picking up here, which is the departure from the trend vs liquidity, correct? People have taken too many risks when it gets too bad. Then there are other scores like leverage that you would add to that and say, yeah, and the leverage is built up. That's why we have too much of the total market cap. The natural leverage number will go up over time as more people use swaps and enter the market. But we also have these bigger guys. As the market cap goes up, we have to measure it as a percentage, just like we do with stocks and other things where short terms are used. The boring zone has started to rout, which means that the next big step up will happen when a lot of these sovereign countries start to really put money into blockchain. There have been a lot of rules put in place, but I know you guys are thinking, okay, the investment hasn't really come yet. That's the most important thing, yes? It doesn't really matter which cryptocurrency or blockchain it is. When these big players with trillions of dollars are putting money into it, this includes altcoins, Bitcoin, and everything else. Any kind of cash is going in there. That's going to snowball into something big. Also, governments need to get their budgets in order before they can really think about this. This means first, lowering the debt, and second, lowering the price of that debt. Of course, cutting rates is a big part of this. Because of this, Europe has had 10 rate cuts in the last few years, and this is also why Donald Trump is pushing the Fed to do it again. Very hard. It's really needed. No matter what, though, I think this is something to be happy about. China is cutting rates very quickly. In Europe, rates are being cut very quickly. This is also being done in most other countries. Whatever the reason, the US is clearly behind the rest of the world. However, the Fed says that they will catch up before the end of the year. That is what we are going to wait for. And once that happens, the banana zone will really take off. Now, Raoul seems to believe that July will be that month. I do believe that there is a good chance that that will be the start of the rate cuts. And if not August, I really hope that will be the case. After that, we can all enjoy crazy amounts of money coming through.